Hello everybody and welcome back to the Crafty Crew podcast. My name is Kinger, aka Big Juicy.
Big Juicy.
Big Juicy.
And I'm joined as always by Mark.
Good evening.
By Nally.
Well.
And by Walshy.
The Dwitch more meh.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
Irish.
Yeah.
It's Irish.
It was, yeah.
But did you get the rest of it?
He called him Big Juicy.
I did. I even translated Big Juicy to Irish.
I think you translated it wrong though, didn't you?
There's a good chance of it because when I looked up the Juicy, there's like 7 different versions of Juicy. So I went with the one that was the easiest to pronounce.
I'm pretty sure, and Nally's a Gaeilgeoir here, he'll correct me, shouldn't more be after? No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would I know that?
How many years did you do Irish in school?
2.
Well, I was borderline foundation Irish as well, so it has to count for something.
Lads, before we get on to this week's, I use the term beers loosely because it's a cider and a beer. We all had a great night last Saturday night at the Midlands Beer Festival. How did you get on?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Great crack.
Apparently so. I think it was good. Those half pints for a token were very liberal half pints.
Yeah.
They were liberal, weren't they? They were.
Yeah, very liberal. And then
half pints.
I was going to ask you the similar about it, lads. I was going to ask you which out of all the beers you had on the night was your beer of the festival, I suppose.
Motorboat for me.
Motorboat,
which is
yeah.
this strawberry cream ale from Dead Centre.
Was it raspberry?
Oh, sorry, raspberry cream ale. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, for me it has to be the Here We Are Stout from Dead Centre. It was absolutely fantastic. One of the nicest alcoholic drinks I've ever had. Like, absolutely gorgeous. I think that's the right name, is it? Here We Are Now?
I think, yeah, I'm nearly certain it's that.
But if they can that shit, I'd be buying a 6-pack every weekend. Like, I do have to say, it's not alcoholic, but massive shout out to Nitro Grounds and their kombucha, which I tried, which was absolutely delicious. Picked up a growler of it for myself, and if anyone sees their stuff anywhere, please give it a try because it's really lovely.
This might surprise you. I fell in love with 200 Fathoms from Galway Bay.
Oh.
Absolutely savage. Unbelievable.
Lovely.
Beer.
Yeah, it's a
Fantastic.
lovely stout, so it is.
Yeah, it's quality.
Yeah. For me, mine was the same as Mark's. Here we are. That was unreal, so it was. I have to give a shout out though to Rye River Brewing, who had some really good. Their Little Bangin' session IPA was really good, along with their Coastal IPA. They had some really nice beers that they had. Plus, they loved my t-shirt, so they're good people. That stout Dead Centre had, I think it was 7.2 or something. That was ridiculous, and the half pints they were pouring of that. Oh, by Jesus, did you feel them after a while? Also, good shout out to the boys. Bishops love sci-fi. I mean, fair play to the boys. Some live music, boys. That was class.
Yeah, and doing the live stream as well was very, very well done.
Yeah. So all in all, a decent day out.
I have to say that my voice still hasn't recovered, and B, my head still hasn't recovered. I've been in recovery since. And but if it was on again next Saturday, I would wholeheartedly be there again. Okay, look, let's get on with this week's episode. So we are heading to Monaghan and Armagh this week, and I have a feeling Nally might have been bluffing me earlier, but do you want to tell us about Brehon and Monaghan, Nally?
Yeah, Kinger, if I had the thought and foresight to bluff you, I really would have. However, I'm still recovering as well, and that has not crossed my mind. So Brehon is a brewery from Monaghan. They were set up by Sean Mcmahon. He's had his it's a farm that's been in his family for generations and generations. And it's a dairy farm, and they just wanted to try something different and increase the productivity of the homestead. So while the craft beer industry in Ireland was taking off, you got a couple of the outbuildings converted into breweries, into breweries with fermenters and everything put into it. And what he did was he went out and got a master brewer to look after it. So this guy called Julio Diana, he's from Sao Paulo in Brazil, and according to it, his favourite beers are both New England IPAs and Kettle Sours. So, you know, between yourself, Big Juicy, and Walshy, you'd have a fairly good time with him. Yeah, he's apparently your man's a qualified engineer and he's won a heap of awards for different things. Seamus McMahon is the founder of the brewery. So farm's been in the house for 100 years. According to the website, Seamus has over 40 years of experience in farming and has provided milk for Bailey's since open brackets, insert year, close brackets. So they've definitely just got someone to do the website and asked for one or two bits of information, and
Brilliant.
the boys were like, no, we're not doing that. And just decided, no, fuck it, we're not doing it. But yeah, with that experience, he's got a good background in business, and he's got a lot of ties to people around the area. So they've done pretty well. They've got a good few beers out now. They've got everything from IPAs out to stouts. They've got a nice red, Killarney Red. It's a nice beer, so it is. And they had one out recently, which was a stout. It was, Mark, you might remember the name of it as well. I think it's Smoke and Mirrors. It's a barrel aged stout. It's savage beer, so if anyone can get their hands on it, it's really nice. Really good beer. The Killarney Red, I'm a big fan of it. It's light enough, but it's just a solid beer on a warm day. It's sessionable and the whole lot, so it is. So it's good beer. And then I haven't really had many of their other beers. I've had their Brehon Blonde. I think it's Stony Grey or something. Is the other one they have. It's named after a poem by Seamus Heaney. It's named after one of his poems. So getting a close connection to it there. The name for the Brehon Brewhouse, the Brehon itself, it comes from, according to the story now, which I think is a good story, so I'm going to tell it anyway. It comes from the old Brehon laws that used to govern Ireland. When you were, if you were brewing beer or whatever, you were allowed to brew beer for your family. So it was a big tradition that was kept alive around the country. So I think it's a good story. Brehon Brewhouse come from the Brehon laws, but that's it's a good story. But
Nice.
yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what I have. I am looking forward to trying this beer though. So the name of the beer we have today is Imagine, and it is a New England Pale Ale. We'll get more into it, I suppose, when we get to the beer, but it looks pretty good. They've gone through a whole redesign only recently enough of their cans, their artwork for the bottles and cans. So we can get onto that more when we get to it. But yeah, I think it's definitely a marked improvement than what it was. It used to be just a plain label. Brew, when they kind of started out before they got the new Urban Jungle series, they were just like a green label or a yellow label with just brew and whatever the type of beer was. So it was similar enough as far as I know for Brehon Brewhouse. So yeah, definitely they put effort into the redesign, so it looks pretty good.
Yeah, they're just because Dipa is one of the nicest Dipas I've had actually as well.
Oh, I haven't had that. Cool. Walshy, have you remembered to find us a nice fact about Monahan, or have you just made
I'm
one
going
up?
to keep it short and sweet, similar to last week. We were like doing one cider against one beer. So I was just going to go, they make beer, they're good in my books. But it was a bit boring, and I was trying to get a bit of inspiration off this can and trying to come up with something to imagine. And I was reading the can, and it says, can you imagine living on a dairy farm and not liking milk, or owning a brewery and not liking beer? Well, imagine my lovely wife. She's a wild woman, but when she gets a drop of cider in her, she's full of big ideas. Her mind will wander, and next thing you know, she'll be saying, can you imagine? This beer is for her, even though she won't drink it. It's a cool little story.
So what I've summarised in that, Walshy, is not only have you completely given up on doing any sort of preparation for this podcast, you're trying to hide behind it by reading cans. So you're not only trying to not do your own story, but also bogart Brehon Brewhouse's lovely story.
We have often read off information, and I never said it was my own.
Lads, we need to get this lad back in line because it's getting ridiculous.
Mark, sure, bring us on up to Armagh and tell us about MacIvors.
Yeah, well, MacIvors cider, probably one of the more common craft ciders around Ireland. Like, I've started seeing it down here in Dublin in my local Dun stores and stuff now. So, it's fairly big. Obviously, the Orchard County, Armagh, we had to do a cider.
Yeah.
It wasn't that this was our only option, we promise, even though it was. Um, so it's kind of got a really deep history. So the farm was established in 1855. It's an apple farm. Well, I guess it's an apple farm. They don't say they farm or anything else, but they say they farm over 100 acres of prime Armagh orchard. So it's massive. So they make culinary apples, cider apples, dessert apples. And while mainly they use the cider apples for cider and the other apples for, other purposes, they do combine culinary apples and dessert apples, in with cider apples to make some of their ciders. So there you have like the traditional dry cider, the medium cider, which is what we're trying today, and they have a couple of like more unusual ciders, a couple of seasonal ones as well. So they have a kind of a cool page on their website which kind of talks you through what you should consider with a cider when you're pairing it with food, which is good. They say it's named after the grandmother of Greg McNeice, who's the guy who runs it now. So his grandmother was Annie MacIvor. It's in the townland of Ardress in Armagh, which I googled. There's like 90 people there. It's like a tiny little out of the way country hamlet, But I find out the truth about all these northern county stories, and I did my research on this. I put my ear to the ground, asked my couple of informants from Armagh, why is it really called MacIvors?
Jesus, go easy with that word when you're talking about the North Counties, will you?
Yeah. Well, what, MacIvors?
Informants,
yeah. Yeah, maybe not the best choice of words. Especially what I'm about to say next.
Oh, no.
So it's
so much editing.
It's in the second highest unionist voting region in Northern Ireland. Okay? That's not a controversial statement. That's a fact. Check the last election. Okay? So obviously, they are supporting of the UK and the, the union with England, whatever. That's grand. So their head of government would be the Prime Minister, ultimately. Although they do have Stormont, that's sometimes there and sometimes not. But the Prime Minister would be the head of that. So, they wanted, one of the biggest shows in Northern Ireland. People might not notice, but it's Stargate Sg1. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it is. It's like really popular. And one of the reasons it's really popular is that the 2 episodes that Ireland are mentioned in Stargate Sg1, the head of Ireland is mentioned as the Prime Minister. That's what they call him.
Oh.
Yeah, so obviously,
Easy.
Who's the star of SG1? It's Richard Dean Anderson. Massive actor in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. But what was he most famous for?
Oh, no. I wanted to make this link. No.
He was most famous for MacGyver. And that's why they just Irished up MacGyver. That's all they did in honour of Richard Dean Anderson's role in Stargate, where Ireland was referred to as having a Prime Minister, therefore inferring that we were back under British rule. So yeah, that's the real story behind their name.
Are you making up stories again, Mark? Yeah.
Prove me wrong, Niall King. Prove me wrong.
I don't think I'll have to, because I'm going to ask Walshy to do it now, and I'm not sure he'll top it.
Probably not. But as Mark brings up MacGyver, he was always known for kind of grabbing little bits and making shit up on the fly. And how he turns around and is like, you know what I'll make this time? Fucking cider. Think he would have thrown something better than that together. Fucking anything.
You're going to have to let this
cider.
go.
I won't let it go.
You're going to have to let it go.
It's probably the longest of all the gadgets he made, considering it would have taken him between 4 to 8 weeks to get it in the bottle.
Yeah. So he had time to change his mind and come to some sense.
That was probably was that the worst ever MacGyver episode, while you're just slowly watching MacGyver, monitor a brewing process.
No, the minute he said cider, I turned it off.
Okay, before I'm left editing this absolute nonsense until 2 o'clock in the morning, let's move on to our first. Are we going to have a beer or a cider first?
Oh no, we're cider, I suppose. Yeah, definitely get the cider out of the way. I mean, a lovely New England IPA.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get the cider done first, I reckon. I do like the sound of a good bottle opening, to be fair, though.
Ah, yeah.
Bottle of beer is pretty nice, though.
And the noise when it clinks off the glass is always satisfying.
I know.
There's a lovely strong apple smell off of this when you crack it open.
Yeah. It's a pretty sweet smell as well. It's not very vinegary, which is always a plus in my books. I don't like that. I don't like when cider goes too far down the tart kind of line and it gets too vinegary, you know? I prefer that sweet smell.
Yeah, it can get a bit like white wine sometimes, can't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not a big fan of that.
That's a very, very light coloured cider now, isn't it?
Very light, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
It's
lovely.
It's
and
almost
clear.
like a very clear.
Looks
Yeah,
like a
it's
lager.
almost like a lager or like some kind of fruit cider. You know what I mean? Not an apple cider, like some kind of elderflower and lime or something like that.
Yeah.
It's gone so light. There's zero head as you expect from a cider. You don't really expect head.
Nope.
Like maybe when you first pour it in, but there's not. Yeah, there's very little. Like, yeah. The carbonation, it's not from looking at it. It doesn't look like it's going to be super fizzy, but it could be.
Like looking at
It's
it, you
not.
can really think
I
it's like obviously outside of the carbonation. You're like, yeah, that looks very like a white wine.
It is quite winey.
It
isn't
is,
looking?
yeah,
it
it
is
is
very,
definitely.
very winey looking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But that's for a different podcast, I think, is it?
yeah. So to move us on to the kind of mouthfeel of it, it's got quite a light mouthfeel for the carbonation. It's not like the explosion that you kind of get with a lot of ciders where it's very fizzy and very dry. Medium, it is a medium cider, and I guess that fits this well. It is quite medium mouthfeel.
Yeah, I'd agree with you 100% there, Mark. I think it doesn't coat your mouth too much either. It's just kind of enough because it's so kind of light. Like this is only, I think it's a 4% or 4.5, is it?
4.5, yeah.
4.5% cider, so it's not overly strong, so it doesn't need to be washed away or anything. So that carbonation is pretty light, and it just gives you a small bit of a coating on the mouth, which I'm okay with for this. It's not like it's oily or anything like we've described some other ones as before. This one's kind of okay.
Just something I forgot to mention about MacIvors, they age all their ciders for 6 months before they ship them out to be sold. So I guess the aging process probably mellows out some of the harsher flavours a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say that's exactly what it is. It's kind of like I'm pretty sure there's tannins in cider the same way there's tannins in wine. So as it ages, the tannins kind of mellow out and it becomes, those tannins are the things that give you the headaches and stuff like that. And they're some of the harsher flavors in like red wine and stuff. But as they mellow out, like that's, it kind of dies down and it's more subtle, which is better in my opinion.
It doesn't have what was the cider we had last week?
Scots, medium dry.
Scots,
So-
yeah.
I say it every time we have a cider, and Nally, you agreed with me last week about this kind of dusty kind of smell you get off some ciders. I'm not getting it on this one. The taste is much cleaner than most ciders that I would have had before this. Like it's very Moorish. Like I could drink a lot of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was kind of looking into it a bit the last time. I think some of that kind of dustiness is. Have you ever had like an apple? If you've had a bite out of an apple, say someone's giving you a phone call or something, and you haven't had it for a while, and it's just sitting there in the air, and then if you bite into it again, you get that kind of almost dusty kind of texture off the apple as well. So I'm wondering, because this is super clear, I'm wondering if this has been filtered more than some other ciders, because that might be what that dustiness is. It might be the apple juice, any remnants of the apple juice that's sitting in the cider itself, giving you that kind of texture. Whereas this is,
that makes sense.
from looking at it, it's super clear. Like, so I wonder if that's after getting those proteins out or something.
Yeah, you said it, Kinger, and clean is a very good word to describe this, because it's like light,
definitely.
it's tasty, doesn't really stick around too much, but it's like not harsh or abrasive on the mouthfeel. Like clean is like what you get with it.
Yeah, Walshy, I'm more than interested to know what you're thinking about this so far.
I'm actually disappointed that I'm not going to berate it because it's a cider. But I'm pleasantly surprised. It's a million times better than what we had last week, for me anyway. I know you enjoyed last week's. Maybe it's because it's not overly bitter. It's not. I know you even said last week it wasn't overly vinegary, but there was that taste that I just that, especially that at the beginning, I didn't like about the other one. I don't get you get that small bit of a very minuscule vinegary ishness to it at the beginning, but it's not overpowering at all, and it's just like you've said, it's clean, it's light, it's smooth. Yeah, I like it. Now look, would I drink a load of them? Probably not. Would I have 2 or 3? Maybe. I don't know. But as ciders go, it's probably one of the nicer ones for me. So I really wanted to give out about it. I really did.
I feel like I think you've mentioned them before, Walter, as well, like the likes of the Alskas and the other like fruit ciders that you've enjoyed. This seems to be much more like them in terms of a style. I know they're not apple or whatever, but like they would be a much clearer drink as well. I think your problem might be kind of the cloudier ciders, would say.
Could be. Yeah, no, definitely seems to be going in that direction. All right. Even Alska's Copperberg, even like I know Copperberg's a bit of a stretch, but them ones I'd only have one because they are for me anyway super sweet, and it's a bit much. Whereas this isn't. It's a nice clean. You get that apple, but it's it's smooth. It's light.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's just a very easy drink I'm finding so far, and to be honest,
yeah,
I'd actually probably finish this bottle.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think getting onto the flavour real quick, it's kind of sweet, not overly so. It's nowhere near sickly or anything like that. It's pretty. I think we said it about the last one as well. It's kind of subtle more than anything else. It's kind of restrained in its flavours. It doesn't try and kick you in the face with it, and it just says, "Here's a bit of an apple flavour. Do with it what you will." It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
Not going to be over carbonated or anything. It's just solid. Yeah, I think that's now compared to last week. Even that's a cider that I would happily sit out on a sunny day and have a couple of bottles of that. I think I'd be
easy.
very happy having that. Like that's, it's not super gassy like some ciders you get where you're just full after a few of them, and it's not stupidly sickly sweet like some of the other ones as well. It's kind of a happy medium, I think, and just kind of restrained or subtle like in the way it is. It's pretty good for me.
A happy medium, he says. Well done.
Yeah,
You got that in there.
I think if this was any more carbonated, like you were saying earlier, it wouldn't be as nice. I think across the board, subtlety is key with this. Like it's just nice on everything. It's not trying to kind of push one aspect of it too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if it was more carbonated, as you say, it would be a kind of more of an aggressive drink. It would be more refreshing in one way, in that it would be fizzier or whatever. But especially with those high carbonation ciders, they lose some of it towards the end. So they kind of change a bit as you're drinking them. And what happens is, while they're lovely and refreshing at the start, towards the end when the carbonation dies off, the sweetness kind of takes over and the sweetness is too much. But with this, because it's all subtle across the board, even though the carbonation does die off a bit, there's not so much sweetness there that you're not still enjoying it at the end.
Yeah, 100%, Mark. And I think it is that kind of it's the fact that those higher carbonated ones, as they die down and they're just left with sickly kind of sweetness, it's overpowering the sweetness for some of them. This is just so subtle the whole way through. It's it's a pretty good cider in my opinion. But we'll see how it gets on, I suppose.
So the rating system, the Craft Geek rating system, as always, starts with unbearable. Jeez, I'm getting confused. I haven't. Do you know what it is? I haven't done it myself in so long that I've actually forgotten. So unbearable. Then it goes booze. Middle of the road is just beer, and then we have Brutiful, and then the much coveted and much sought after unbeerleavable. So let's, Walshy, do you know what? You kick us off here.
Like I said, I wanted to curse it out. It's cider. It's what I wanted it to do. I can't. I would like to apologise to our man and MacIvor himself. He took them few weeks and he did it right. He did what he was supposed to do. If he was going to make a cider, it's like, okay, at least let's try make a good one. And in fairness to him, he did all right. So as ciders go, like it's still not going to compare to most beers that I have because I just don't really like. But as ciders go, it's probably one of, if not the nicest cider I've had ever.
Oh,
So even at that, like I mean, it's still. And I even said last week is like most ciders I've had at best they'd get a just beer, but I can't look under a Brutiful for this one.
I
Damn.
am shocked.
Damn.
Happily shocked, but shocked. Nice.
Loving that, Walshy.
Man, MacIver.
I would row in behind you. I would say this is absolutely beautiful. It's a high end beautiful. I something in me is never going to be able to give an unbelievable to a cider. I don't know why, and maybe that's a bit unfair, but it's Moorish. I would easily drink plenty of this on a hot sunny day, in by the fire watching a movie, like any time of the day or night. It's clean, it is refreshing, and it's really smooth. So I'd say beautiful as well.
Yeah, I'll row in behind you, and I'm not going to have any of your cider biased shit here. That's an unbelievable for me. That is literally the nicest cider I've ever had.
Really?
And as I said at the start, I've started to see MacIvors appear in like my local duns and stuff where I do my food shop. I'll be putting a couple of bottles of that now in the fridge. Little bit, the only thing I'm disappointed is that I'm discovering it in September. When, if I had discovered this in April or May, I'd have been stocking the fridge for all those lovely warm evenings after a hard day's work. And I'd have been chomping away the bit with this stuff. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Can't wait to try more.
Yeah, it's a class cider. It's a beautiful for me as well. On the higher end, but it is a beautiful for me. It's class. It's really nice.
We almost did it. We almost did it.
Almost.
Mark,
almost.
I won't lie to you, man. It's right on the fence before. Like, it's so close. It's just
I'm
not
the same.
quite there.
I am.
But that I think the best two words we've used to describe this, King, you were saying it, is clean and subtle. It's such a clean drink, so it is. I'd be more than happy to have a couple of them out.
Like clean and subtle, ironically, as they are the two words that would never be used to describe any member of this podcast.
Yeah. Or how any of us are after a couple of ciders. But yeah, no, I'd be more than happy, Mark, same as you. If I found this, I mean, it might be just the time of year, it's getting into September and stuff. I'm like, I'm going to be off ciders for a while now. Maybe hit me up with this one again next, May, and it could get a better rating, But yeah, no, it's just on that. It's just under it, so it is. But yeah, definitely a beautiful cider, so it is.
So I guess I'll try and finish up the rating then, the official rating, with a terrible go at a Monahan accent.
Why? It's from Armagh, Kinger.
Why? Oh, it is Armagh.
Yeah.
Sorry, it is. Sorry, I was stuck on Monahan for some reason.
All that good work undone by you and your lack of geographical awareness.
Yeah.
Once again, we've been screwed by Kinger not knowing what fucking county we're doing.
Jesus Christ! It's usually not on this side of it though. He's usually decent at this side of it, like.
So, MacIvors medium cider is after getting a beautiful rating from the Crafty Crew podcast.
That's very good. Well
Yeah,
done.
that's alright. Yeah.
I'll take that. Yeah, Monahan won't be as good. Mark, have you a little something for us this week?
Well. You've come to rely on me for this section, haven't you? If you're not even letting me butt in. Yeah, I do. I have a little 5-question quiz here.
No way.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
I'm becoming a stereotype, but I'm going to lean into it. This week's quiz.
Has it been designed to stop me getting 3 in a row?
No, it's a very fair quiz, and it's about both the counties. Okay, it's about it's a Monaghan and Armagh quiz. Okay.
Oh no.
So we'll start it off easy enough. So we're going the honour system as we always do. Okay. And this is a 50-50. So I said it's a Monaghan and Armagh quiz. So which county is Navan Fort in?
Who's going first?
We go, Walshy, you're going to go first. Where is Navan Fort?
Monaghan.
Nally, where is Navan Fort?
Armagh.
And Kinger, where is Navan Fort?
I was also going to say Armagh.
Oh, lads, Navan's in Meath. What are you talking?
Yeah.
No, but Navan Fort is in Armagh. Yes, very good. Yeah, so 1 point to Kinger and Ali there. 0 to Mr. Paul Walsh.
Shock horror.
Yeah, so for years and years, what metal was mined in Monaghan? So maybe there was loads, but there was one particular metal that it was like big producer of. So we're going to go, Nally, you're going first this time.
Copper?
Copper for Nally. Kinger?
Brass came to mind. I've no idea why. I'll say brass.
Cool. And Walshy?
I was thinking steel.
Steel.
So-
I don't know that you
so-
can mine steel or brass.
Yeah, so they're
Pretty
both
sure you
alloys.
can.
I know, yeah.
They're both alloys.
Yeah.
So
I know.
I'm the only one with a chance in this one, and I'm probably wrong, but I have a chance.
Definitely you are, because the other two are wrong. But it's actually lead. So
Oh,
hard
okay.
luck, nobody gets any points.
No
Okay,
fucking wonder they're mental up there.
so again we've another 50-50 kind of here. Okay, so strap your thinking caps on. Which of the two counties have won the most All-Ireland finals?
Oh, Lord.
In
Is it me first?
in all sports, or like
Which of the two counties have won the most GAA All-Ireland finals?
yeah, but like men's and female or total.
Which of the two counties have won the most men's GAA All-Ireland finals?
Okay, all right, okay, that's fine. Thanks.
You really left me with no ambiguity on that one there, Nally, did you?
No, it was. There's too much to it. Like it's, had to check.
I'll say Armagh.
Walshy, you're up next.
I was thinking Armagh as well.
Monahan is my guess. Monahan.
Oh, Nally, that was a bad guess. It's Armagh.
Ah, well, it was worth a try.
I got a point.
So, from my count, it's 1 point to Walshy, 1 point to Nally, and 2 points to Kinger. So he's on fucking track for it again. So Nally, you threw out the Seamus Heaney reference there with Brehon Brewhouse earlier on, and here's a good question for you. So which famous Irish poet is from Monaghan? I'll narrow it down a bit. If you did leave insert English in any time in Ireland in the past 45 years, he was probably on the course at any level. Okay, so which famous Irish poet was from Monaghan? Like super famous, you're talking top tier Irish poet here. It's question 4, so that means you have to go first again, Walshy.
I don't know any poets at all, so I'm going to go with MacIvor.
He couldn't even pick the county that the MacIvors cider was from. Fuck's sake, Walshy.
I know. I'm just going to tell Walshy now. I don't think this is going to affect Nally Kinger. Walshy, that's the wrong answer, unfortunately. Okay, Nally. Nally, I apologise if you were going to go MacIvor, but...
Shit, took it out of my head now. Kavanagh, Patrick Kavanagh.
Okay, and Kinger?
Behan? Is it Brendan Behan?
Brendan Behan
Was
is
it
an
his name?
Irish poet, yeah. Is that your guess?
That's my guess, yeah.
Okay.
It's the only one that I can think of.
It was Patrick Kavanagh. Well done, Nally. Oh, back in it. 2-2. Okay, so final question, right? And there is the typical, mark tiebreaker element to this. So, which county is bigger in terms of kilometers squared area, and what is the size difference? Okay, so the size difference will only come into it if everyone gets it wrong, or if it's a draw, right? So Nally, you're going to be going first, then Kinger, then Walshy.
Yeah.
So I want which county is bigger for the point, and then in case it goes to a tiebreak, I want the kilometer squared area difference between the two counties.
Jesus, the kilometre squared area is the tough part of this, I think. I have
That's
my
a very tough part.
I have my guess for the other one, but I just can't think, like, how big is kilometre square? Like, what? I don't know. Is it an Athlone bigger than the other one, or is it several Athlones? I don't know. And speaking of that, I don't know the square kilometre of Athlone anyway, so I don't know why I'm using that as a reference.
The question was which one is bigger, right?
Yeah.
So, do you want me to go?
Yeah, Nally, who's bigger?
Monahan.
And what's the difference you're going to go for?
Difference I'll go for is, I don't know, 475 square kilometers. I don't know.
475. Okay.
Seems a lot now that I say it out loud, but
So I'm glad he said that, because I was going to say Armagh.
Okay.
And I was going to say by 30 square kilometers.
Okay. And Walshy?
I was going to go with Monahan and 20.
Okay, well, I have to say, I'm going to accuse one of you of using Wikipedia here. Because it's Armagh by 32 square kilometers.
oh, Kinger!
No way.
Yeah.
I swear
Fair
to
play.
God, I promise you that it's
Three
a guess.
in a row, Kinger, and that was a fucking suspicious answer there.
Fair
This is
play.
a game. If this was a game of Among Us, you'd be kicked now for that one. But, well done, Kinger.
Jesus.
3 on the bounce.
Fair play.
Another quiz win.
Excellent.
Resident
Monaghan-
egghead.
Monaghan was wildly out for me, so I
Yeah.
don't know how big places are. Like,
Just for
475 square kilometers is a pretty big
it's pretty
area,
big.
I
Like,
think.
yeah, it's huge. Like, but sure, I wasn't thinking. My whole thought was Armagh, I think, is the smallest county up the north, and I was like, Jesus, it's probably a fair guess to be smaller than Monaghan. So,
just for context, Nally, your 475 kilometers. Monaghan
is the
in
size
total
of it? Is it?
is 1295 kilometers. So your one was like
Aye.
more than a third the size of Monaghan. So yeah,
Could've
when
been.
you look at it, I know it's hard when you're guessing, I know, but when you look at it, it's kind of funny.
Armagh could have been 600 or 800 kilometers, and then I would have been pretty close. So,
Okay, look, let's move on to our first beer, or our second drink of the night. So this is Imagine from Brehon Brewhouse. So crack them open, lads.
Fuck.
Yikes.
Fuck.
Oh no,
Yeah.
really?
Well, mine exploded, but it's a New England, so
Bad.
It was the can. You can tell it was quite hard.
Is it
There was a
bad?
lot into it.
Mine
Mine was
was
alright.
grand.
I just haven't opened it fully.
Yeah, you got there.
there's actually a lovely story behind Can You Imagine here, and I tell you about it. It's written on the can, right? But unfortunately, Walshy,
Asshole.
shamelessly used it as his fact from Monaghan because he was too fucking lazy to do that.
Oh, you're just raging because you were going to say it probably now at this stage, and I just got there ahead of you.
I'm just more annoyed at your so obvious lack of commitment to your supposed friends here, Walshy. You changed, man. You used to be cool.
Fucking Monahan. I can't make up something about that word.
It's another generous pour from me. I have about 1/5 beer and 4/5 head in my San Miguel beer glass.
Yeah, it's not gone a lot better for me here either. To be fair,
Same.
it's
No, me either.
It's getting
very
up
bad.
to half and half. But Kingers is all right though. Big juicy, able to
No,
pour those
mine's
NEIPAs.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad.
Uh,
Mine should
Speaking
come with a
of
fucking flake.
Speaking of big and juicy, I'm getting a big juicy earthy flavour off of it, off the smell anyway.
I was going to say you've been able to taste it.
Yeah, the head.
it is quite a big juicy smell, to be fair. Which I think is probably fairly common in most NEIPAs, right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the big thing with them is they tend to be that more juicy kind of style.
You can
Excuse me,
definitely
moving-
smell the hops off it as well.
Yeah, those New England IPAs tend to be mainly they're quite hoppy, but they're hopped obviously during the boil and that. But oftentimes New England IPAs get dry hopped as well, which is they're hopped during the fermentation process. So fermentation, let's say for example, takes maybe 10 days. After day 5 or 6, you might intro an extra charge of hops in on it, and it gives it that extra smell. It kind of makes the smell a bit more prominent because it's not all being taken up in the boil, and you get this thing. It's called Biotransformation. So the yeast actually interacts differently with the hops and gives you kind of some of these flavors that you only really get in kind of like New England or dry hop beers. You can't really get them from hopping a beer normally, say, because it's part of the interaction between the yeast and the hops that give it these extra flavors.
Okay.
I've recently tried, Nally, a New World Pale Ale with Mosaic hops, and I see that Mosaic is what was used here in this the Brehon beer, and I have to be honest, I can definitely get that earthiness from it, that kind of grassy, hoppy earthiness. I feel it's coming more from the Mosaic, and I think the juiciness from the Citra. Would you say that's right?
I'd say definitely the juiciness is coming more from the Citra kind of hops. They're that kind of obviously kind of citrus fruit kind of flavors. It gives it that juiciness and that roundness to it. That Mosaic is kind of more the bottom end, I'd say, that you're getting. You know, kind of earthy, kind of floral, but not too far either way. It's kind of in the middle of earthiness and a floralness, but it's more like if citrus is kind of like a sharper kind of flavor, the Mosaic is more kind of round in your mouth, if that makes sense.
I will say one thing I was kind of excited, and I knew there was a bit of citra to it, but then like looking at the can more, there's like notes of peach, mango, and grapefruit as well on top of it, which has me quite excited because that's a lot of things are right up my alley.
Just really quickly, color wise, it's I mean, it's not at all see through. Well, the drink, like it's very viscous looking. Would that be one way of putting it?
Yeah, I'd say it looks a lot like some of the Citra Dippas we've had.
I'd say it's a very like standard kind of New England IPA look. Like if you put that down in front of me and say what style is it, my first guess would probably be a NEIPA. You know, it's that kind of hazy, light colored beer. Yeah, with a head and a hazy light color. Like that's to me, that's what kind of NEIPAs are. You know, obviously some of the dippas that we've had have looked this kind of way as well. But as we said before, Kinger, those ones tend to be based off New England IPA beers anyway. The ones that we tend to like more anyway.
Just one last mention on the head as well. We've all got fairly big heads from the pour, but it's the first beer that I've had that reminds me very much of like a Belgian or like a wheat beer type of a head, where it's like a lot. It's a very like the texture of the head looks quite thick, if that makes sense. Like the middle kind of almost hardens a bit.
I was also going to say this probably just goes to show that we can't pour a drink for shit between the four of us.
I don't know about that. I think it's just the beer.
Well, it's probably what you're saying, but it's just more of a. I still haven't even got anywhere close to mine, and I've been scooping out half of the head.
But does that hard kind of a head, like, or for want of a better word, is that from a particular ingredient in the beer, or the way it's made, or?
It could be. So some of the malts tend to, you know, depending on what malt it is, like a 2-row Munich malt, Carapils, different things like that. They can, some of them hold head better than others. Like if the adjuncts that are in there as well, the other kinds of stuff that's in the grist. So like if you have oats or, you know, rolled oats and different things like that in there, it can just lead to better head retention. It's just the proteins that are in the beer. And a lot of the time why kind of New England beers, that kind of hazier style, tend to have bigger heads is, you know, well, from what I can see anyway, you know, all the protein and stuff that's floating around in the beer, like there's a lot of extra protein there that can be caught during the carbonation, which could probably leads to hold a better head. That's me guessing now, that last part. I'm not 100% on that, but it makes some kind of sense.
On taste then, like again, another very fairly smooth beer. There's not a whole lot of carbonation going on from what I can pick up. And quite a long lasting kind of an aftertaste with this, which I'm assuming is the Mosaic. Is that what that is?
Yeah, so I have 4 words for this. It's rich, it's juicy, it's sweet, and it's earthy. They're like the 4 things I get. I get a richness from the strength of it. That kind of turns into like an orange juicy kind of juiciness. You get the sweetness down of the orange juice, and then just as that goes, you get the kind of earthiness backdrop, which is kind of typical of the style, as Nally was saying, and definitely typical of these two. or this blend of hops.
Is this is this almost verging on like almost on like a dipper for you guys? Like it has that boozy taste at the end that I'm you know,
almost like
it's not,
a vodka.
Yeah,
rummy.
like like the heat, the warmth that we describe sometimes when we're talking about dippers and stuff. It's not quite there, but there's something there just at the end of it where it's 6.2%, I think, like, you know, which isn't quite, it's not quite on the dipper range, but with this, it's something at the end that you're getting that kind of boozy warmth in it. Now, not overpowering or anything, but it's there, like, you definitely notice it, as opposed to some of the other beers we've had that are 6 point something percent, and you don't notice it at all.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as like, first when you said that, Nanny, I was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And then went back for a drink again. And I do kind of get what you mean. Just at the very end, there's that kind of a bit of a, I don't know, like a kick. I'd say like a kick of alcohol, but that warmth that you had mentioned, there's definitely a small bit of it there to it. But whether they kind of try to take a small influence, because it is 6.2, it's not a small percentage either, but I think most of New Englands I've had are usually around a 5 to 6-ish range, I want to say, the few I've had anyway. But I don't know, I definitely get that little bit of warmth you were on about.
Like 7.5 is your dipper kind of, that's your percent.
Nice.
You hit that, you're a dipper. So this is 6.2. I mean, American light lagers are generally about 4. Most of the IPAs 4.5 to 5.5 kind of. So I guess it's just tipping the top end. But one thing I think that the Citra hops and the Mosaic hops, while they do have their characteristic flavours, they're nowhere near as like strong as in like a Citra Pale Ale where you're just getting that blast of fruit flavour. And we've had things before in this podcast with that earthiness where, you know, some saisons and stuff as well that will have that really rich, super strong flavour. And it's almost as if the two hops are quite muted here and we are getting their flavours, but maybe because they're muted in both cases, it's allowing a strength of the alcohol to come through. Then in another beer, maybe these hops are full flavoured. You know, they're there at their full strength and that booziness is hidden. I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing here with that.
If you, like you said earlier, Nelly, if someone put it in front of you in a glass and asked you to guess what style it was, you'd go New England IPA. Much the same if somebody gave it to me to drink without telling me what it was, I would guess that's a dipper. Like it's so characteristic of a double IPA. It's weird that it's not, you know. Which like makes me wonder, is that a good or a bad thing based on what it's supposed to be on the can or what it says it is on the can? Is it trying to be something that it's not?
Do you know what else it's like a dipper? I'm halfway through and it's getting quite heavy, like physically.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough going.
I'm kind of sad that it's getting kind of heavy halfway through. It was really, really good at the start. Like, you know, I think as I'm going through it as well, the getting near the end, the kind of earthiness, kind of, you know, stone fruity kind of flavors, like that grapefruity kind of flavor is coming out more than at the start where it was more, you know, citra, mango-y type of things. It's kind of getting more grapefruity, and I mean, grapefruit's grand, but if I wanted a grapefruit beer, I'd go for a grapefruit, you know. Like, grapefruit beers are one of the few kinds you can get that actually exist that have grapefruit in them. You know, like Brewdog's Elvis juice and stuff like that have grapefruit in them, so you could get them, whereas I'm not overly gone on that kind of flavour myself, anyway.
Do you know what it is? I think if you don't take big mouthfuls of this, if you take smaller mouthfuls the whole way down, I think the taste stays the same. It doesn't change too much if you don't gulp it, you know.
Yeah, maybe. But then you're not, you know you're not getting both.
No,
sides
I know
of
you're
it.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
And I think
it's
I think if you have to drink a beer in a certain way the whole way down,
I know. Is it worth it?
It can do one, like, in my opinion. Fuck that noise.
I'm kind of confused and maybe on the fence about this one. Started off liking it a lot. I'm not as big a fan of the earthy kind of like tones in any beer really. Like probably like the fruitier the better for me. So that, you know, it's probably a case of like finishing a beer to the end. But the start of this beer was a lot nicer than halfway through already, and now I'm assuming it's going to keep changing as I finish the glass.
One thing I've discovered, Kinger, in the last year or so on my journey towards early onset liver failure is that the kind of earthy, farm-yardy tastes, and you can go way back to some of our early episodes in season 1 where I was like giving out about them. They're like a strong coffee or like whatever. They're an acquired taste a little bit. And when you expose yourself to enough of them, like a red wine or something, it does kind of give you a bit more of a palate for them and you start getting notes through it and stuff. And I think I don't mind the earthy flavours now, you know, they're grand. But one thing I didn't really expect them in is something that says a New England Pale Ale, like, and this just gets heavier and the booziness is racking up, which is pleasant in small amounts, but too much booziness, man, I'll just have a fucking vodka at that stage, you know.
I think the thing, Mark, you kind of nailed it there. I think I was the same. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of those kind of earthy tones and stuff, but I think it's more like those earthy tones are kind of like the base, you know, and it depends on what you layer on top of it. So, for example, this kind of one that has like Citra or, you know, Amarillo or something like those fruitier kind of hops layered on top of it, I'm all for. I think they're class. And then, you know, the other ones, the more old school, like the East Coast IPAs, or sorry, the West Coast IPAs, the old school ones, they're grand as well. But the kind of earthy notes there are generally accented by like more kind of piney or tarry kind of hops at the top of it. Like, well, not tarry, but kind of piney or resinous-y kind of hops at the top of them, which I think sometimes lend themselves better as a combination. But yeah, it's I really liked it at the start, but I don't know.
This will betray a lot about how I'm feeling about it, right? But I'm near the end now, and shall we get drunk at a wedding before the meal? Yeah. And then you go to have the soup, but you're pissed. So
I know exactly what you mean.
You're just chatting away to people, and your soup goes cold, and then you're drinking like thick soup, and you're like, I don't taste anything with this. I'm just putting it into me because it's the food, and you're like kind of choking it back, and you're like, and it's mixing with the taste of your pint, and you're like, this is unpleasant to just stop drinking, and then you stop halfway through, right? The last like third of this pint reminds me of that experience.
The bit I'll say on it is when we eventually got to start drinking it, I enjoyed it, but it was like, does it really stand out against any other New England? And I was like, I didn't think so. And then Nelly had mentioned about that kind of boozy taste at the end of it, and I copped it after. I noticed after he said it, and usually I don't like that booziness in most drinks, but because it wasn't overly powerful, it's like, oh, okay, that kind of switches it up. But no more than what we've all said. You're about halfway through. You're kind of looking at it and it's like, oh, do I have much left? Not necessarily in a bad way, but like you're like, I just don't know if I can drink any more. We will, because we're heroes. But you're like, there's still a lot in that glass.
I think we've bought ourselves enough time now that we can move on to the rating for Imagine from Brehon Brewhouse. Mark, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm right on the fence at how bad this is. But I like Brehon. And I'm going to give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt with this and just give it a booze. I will finish this, but I am struggling to finish it. Every mouthful, and I'm taking big mouthfuls, Ginger, I'm taking small mouthfuls. Every mouthful's getting harder. It's pleasant. It's like a pint in quarters. The first quarter's pleasant. It's got nice citrus flavor with like earthy aftertaste from the mosaic, and it's a kind of semi-complex beer that you're kind of enjoying. Then it starts getting heavy. The carbonation's way too low. It's very thick. The booziness piles and piles. My mouth feels right now like I've done a sambuca shot. That's how my mouth feels. There's no clearance of it, like. So this is a booze, and it's lucky to be getting a booze from me, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Walshy?
I'm kind of surprised by that. So you're saying that nearly the deciding vote was the fact of where it's coming from nearly?
Not really. Like, I'm able to finish it, and to me, an unbearable is something that you literally stop, and you're like, it's not worth me finishing this.
That makes sense.
So that's kind of my line in the sand with it, you know.
I was at the beginning, and I was enjoying it, but it wasn't really standing out against other New Englands I've had. So I was kind of on the fence a little bit between two, and then halfway I kind of brought it down. But I'm just going to go with a just beer. I still don't hate it by any means. It's still heavy, but I don't think it's bad tasting at all. Even the booziness that I'm not usually accustomed to. It's not to say it's light, because that doesn't make sense when you say it's boozy, but it's not heavily boozy like a lot of them dippas that I just can't struggle with. And I know this isn't a dippa, but it has that kind of a little hint of it, which is fine by me. But even at that, it's just, there's nothing exciting about it really. It's not bad, it's not great, it's just
meh
beer.
Cool. I didn't know what to expect of this when I seen it was a New England IPA and the ABV was so high. I was very optimistic coming into it. Initially, loved the smell. I thought right on Dippa territory for the smell. Dippa territory on looks and on taste. Initially, I was like, this is just short of being a lovely Dippa. I don't know. I think booze is very harsh. And I would have started on Brutiful, but I would probably be more in line with a just beer for this. Disappointingly, because started off great. The more I drank of it, the more effort it was taken to finish it, to actually drink it. So I'd say just beer, and a begrudging one at that, I would say.
Nanny, just before you go, once again, as we say pretty much every week between all of us, just goes to show how important it is that you finish your beer. Like you said, if you finish halfway through that can, there's a decent chance it was getting a lot higher than what it probably will,
Yeah.
That's the point I'm going to make as well. What you was just going to say, if that can tasted the same from the beginning the whole way through, for me that's getting a really good rating. In this case, however, I'm not a huge fan of this one. This is it's grand. It's grand. Like, I drink a few of them, they're fine. It's getting a just beer for me, but it's on the low side of just beer. No more than the last time, Mark. It's just a slight difference between where you are and where I am. Last time was just for a really good reason, and we were just on the way of unbelievable and beautiful. And this way, it's the other side of it. I'm just that slight bit ahead of you on it. Like, it's not great, but it's still just beer for me. I mean, I could have just went booze and just known it would have got just beer as the rating, but the rating can't be, it has to be infallible. That's the only thing we're good at on this, is rating beer. The rest of it's all shite talk and waffles. So
Yeah.
Stop.
so yeah, I'll give it to just beer. Begrudgingly, I get to just beer for me though.
That was a big turn.
All right, Kinger. So let's swing it around and let's hear your best Monahan rendition, eh?
I don't know, Monahan. It's not too north. It's not too north.
Oh,
but
it
it's
is
still
though.
up
But they're
there,
real intense, Monahan. How far in the army by?
You see, you could go Donegal very quickly if you're not careful, which I feel like I'm going to do. Cavan and Monaghan, they're fairly similar. So the crafty crew are after giving Brehon Brewhouse's Imagine a just beer from the official rating system on the Crafty Crew podcast. It's too north. But you know what? I'll stick with it. It's too north.
Sticking with it though.
You can get one go at it.
That's
you
it.
get one go, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, before you go, lads, you're probably going to know the answer to this. But I'm going to throw a little joke here for you. Don't tell the answer. Don't spoil it for me. You all know it. What does a cow and calving have in common? No, I fucked it up. Damn it.
No. Walshy.
No, I was going to use it for calving last week, but it was too obvious.
Walshy.
No, I fucked it up altogether.
Finish it out.
No, it was meant to be what does a cow and Monahan have in common? They're both close to calving.
Oh, Walshy.
I could do nothing right.
Jesus.
Mark, you wanted to say something just about 2 previous beers, was it?
Yeah, okay. This is hard, alright?
I don't know what he's disappointed more about. That beer or me?
No, this is unrelated to the 2 beers we've had tonight, okay? So
Or me? Just...
Yeah, okay, it's unrelated to you as well, but you make everything about you in the end anyway, so I mean, it's a redundant statement.
I don't know, Mark, have you met yourself?
I have, Walshy, and that statement about you is coming from me, so I think you need to take a good hard look at yourself. Anyway, so the what's the word here? The paraphrase for horrible, terrible, awful, undelicious, the antithesis of what we want in beer on this podcast for many an episode has been Third Circle Trinity Pilsner.
Oh.
Mainly, all up to it, mainly, proliferated by myself.
I'm right there with you. I think on that one, fuck that shit.
Yeah. However, I recently have had the experience of having 2 other Trinity Brewery beers. Okay.
Third Circle.
Third Circle
Where are you going
beers.
with this?
Yeah, I didn't even know the fucking name.
That's how shit it
bad
is.
it was. But anyway, I had 2
I've
other
seen a
Third
few
Circle
in there.
beers. So, I had 2, right? I have the cans here anyway, so I could show them off to you guys on the video chat. So I had It's the Little Things. It's the Little Things, which is a Citra Micro IPA. And I had...
At the pale ale.
I'm literally telling you what they are. Just sit there and be quiet for a minute. I told you this is hard to do. Give me a fucking minute, Walshy. Didn't I tell you, he always makes things about himself.
No, it's just... trying to nearly guess what they are before.
It's not what I have in work. It's not what I have in work. It's all about me.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, so it's the Little Things Micro IPA, Citra IPA, and Catching Sunshine, which is brewing Mosaic New World Pale Ale, the one I kind of mentioned earlier, talking about the Mosaic hops in Brehon. And I have to say, while the Catch the Sunshine was a fairly standard just beer, this little It's the Little Things was a lovely, beautiful, delicious beer that I highly recommend anyone who likes a kind of fruity, light session or micro. This is a really good entry into the field. So because of that, because I've given Third Circle their fair due, I feel like I don't hate them as much as I did. I feel like it's like made up for the sins of the past a little bit. So obviously the podcast can't continue without a fucking slapping bitch of a brewery that we constantly refer to and something shit. So I have for you 2 suggestions that I'd like you to decide on. Now, I'm not going to tell you what the breweries are. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you that one of them is a brewery I've had 8 beers from and 8 times have been disappointed. 8 times. And another one is one I've only had 1 beer from them, but it was a beer on this podcast that relatively went down badly on this podcast. So do we go with the bad podcast beer, or do I bring in a brewery from externally just to shit on?
We go with the bad podcast beer because I think I know what it is.
I think we all know what it is.
It's not going to be Craigie's Rosé Cider because we're not supposed to speak of that.
No.
Okay, so it's not that.
I was going to say Shouting at Strangers.
Yeah, Wylam,
I was
welcome
also
to the
gonna say
fucking
Wylam, yeah.
bitch slapping zone of the Craft Crew podcast. And until you decide to cop on and send us some free beers that are actually nice, Wylam is now the other word for wank.
I The only thing I'll say about Wylam, which is going to make it a lot, probably last a lot longer for the poor fuckers, is Third Circle, I think, are based in Ireland, and we can get that. Wylam is some fucking company over in England that we're probably not going to get as handy, so Wylam probably will.
And
fair.
They probably will have to send us those beers for them to get any hope of redemption.
And guess where they're based? In the
Fucking
official
Newcastle, man.
the official hated city of the podcast,
Fucking
Newcastle.
Newcastle.
So as we indoctrinate our newest wank brewery into the Crafty Crew Hall of Fame, we'll call an end to the episode there. Next week we are in Down and Antrim, so I'm gonna go and watch the rest of the Ireland game with Eamon Dunphy, and I know Paul Walsh will probably be doing the same thing. I'd say.
Honda Dunphy.
I officially found someone that I hate more than Eamon Dunphy.
No, you didn't.
100%, and it's the easiest decision. And his name is Graham Souness. But I don't think you'll ever big him up.
Graham Souness is a legend.
Do you know why? Do you know why Walshy hates Graham Souness? It's because he finally watched that clip of Eamon Dunphy putting Graham Souness in his place. How many years, Nally? How many years?
Oh, it's been 63 years, so it has, baby. 63 years.
I don't know that reference.
I'll wrap the episode up. So it's a goodbye from Nally, goodbye from Mark, goodbye from Walshy, and from myself, Kinger, aka
Big Juicy.
Every time the wind whispers through the trees, I hear it say your name. Big Juicy.
See you next week.